Hello, biologists. Let's talk about the mid-unit 3 review, digestive, cardiovascular, and nervous systems. The biggest ideas that we're talking about in the first part are the process of digestion and the digestion enzymes. Let's talk about the difference between autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs means self-feeding, like plants. They make their own food using carbon dioxide and water. Where we are heterotrophs, we have to go out and find something to eat. Heterotroph means different eating, not self-feeding. What do heterotrophs versus autotrophs break down for energy? Well, it turns out they both break down glucose. Plants break down glucose they make. We break down glucose that we have to find when we go out and eat things. So plants and animals both break down glucose, we just get it from different sources. Let's talk about digestion from plate to restroom. Food enters the body through the oral cavity, you chew it up. That's mechanical digestion, getting the food into smaller pieces. Adding saliva, and that saliva starts chemical digestion. You add some enzymes right here that start breaking down starches. There's an enzyme called amylase that you may have talked about in class. So the esophagus is the squishy tube that goes from your mouth down to your stomach. More digestion happens in the stomach. Acid and enzymes, namely pepsin, is added to break down the proteins here. The food travels down through the small intestine, lots and lots of feet of small intestine here, and then it goes to the large intestine, and then goes to the large intestine and leaves your body. Large intestine is also known as your colon. So we've answered how does it get to the stomach. It goes through your esophagus. The chemicals that are used are enzymes and acids. Stomach breaks down proteins. The small intestine absorbs nutrients. So the small intestine has a lot of little fingers that are called villi that help increase the surface area. And the colon pulls out all the extra water. The liver here is very important because it makes a lot of the enzymes that are added during the digestive process. So knowing now what you know, there's a couple of practice essay questions. You can shut off the video and see if you can answer. What is the difference between chemical and mechanical digestion? We did talk about mechanical, that's breaking the food into smaller pieces. Chemical is adding enzymes, acids, or bases to break the molecules in smaller pieces. We talked about in the digestion lab how lactase, this big disaccharide, there's two sugar rings here, is broken into two smaller molecules by the enzyme lactase. That's one example of chemical digestion. Or long amino acid chains are clipped into shorter chains by pepsin. Molecules of food are absorbed by your body in the small intestines. Both proteins get broken down into smaller molecules. Sugars gets clipped down into smaller molecules. And where that happens depends on whether it's a sugar or a protein. I'll let you look that one up. The HCl, of course, is produced in your stomach, and lots of enzymes are also involved in chemical digestion. There's also a base added to your food mixture once it hits the small intestine, because the stomach can tolerate a lot of acid, but the small intestine cannot. All right, let's switch gears and go to the cardiovascular system. That's your heart and lungs, and all of your veins and capillaries. The respiratory system takes in oxygen and the blood delivers it to all the cells in the body. The lungs exchange gases with the environment and the blood. Oxygen is taken in and carbon dioxide is removed. Two gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, very important to remember. Inside each lung are many sacs called alveoli, where the gas exchange takes place. At the alveoli, cells release their carbon dioxide, blood cells that is, and pick up fresh oxygen. Once oxygen is in the blood, it's carried to the heart. From there, it's pumped throughout the body. Blood without oxygen and full of carbon dioxide is picked up from your cells, goes through the veins, back to the heart, and through the lungs to pick up oxygen and release carbon dioxide once again. Oxygenated blood travels through your arteries, and blood without oxygen, or not too much oxygen, travels in veins. So this, of course, is your heart. It's important because it pumps blood. Without it, you die. The reason it's so important to keep blood circulating in the body, or one of the reasons, is all of your cells need oxygen to go through cellular respiration. Because without ATP, you'd be dead in 2 seconds. So your cells need a constant supply of oxygen to keep that cellular respiration process going on and keep producing ATP. Because pretty much all the cellular processes in your body run on ATP. It's very important. It's what makes you go. So the left side of your heart sounds a little bit louder because it has to push a little bit harder. The left side of your heart sends blood throughout your entire body. So it really has to slam the blood through your arteries to get it all the way down to your toes. The right side here just needs to get it to your lungs, which of course are right behind your heart, so it doesn't have as far to go. It doesn't have to push as hard. Here's a path. There's a lot of complicated names, and you don't need to know the complicated names. You basically need to know that if you start in the right atrium here, that's the top, the blood goes here, gets pushed out to your lungs. After it goes to your lungs, it goes to the left atrium here, it goes to the left ventricle, then it goes to the aorta, and then it goes to the rest of your body. Here's the big push right here. Here's the thick part of the heart muscle. That's the big push to go outside to the rest of your body, to your capillaries. Lungs are nice to have because, I'll let you think about it for a second, shut off the video. They release carbon dioxide and they collect oxygen. So blood travels through your lungs for 2 reasons: to pick up oxygen and dump off carbon dioxide. The second essay question will be different for every class, but it has something to do with describing what happens at your lungs. So if you can think about how all of these diagrams work together, you're set up very well for essay question 2. If you can describe this diagram, it doesn't have numbers on it, but if you can put things in numerical order, this is similar to a diagram that you might see on the test, and if you can describe what goes on here, you're in very good shape for both an essay question and a multiple choice question. So here's the big picture of the nervous system. We're going to switch gears here, leave cardiovascular and go to nervous. There are 2 main branches. There's the central nervous system, which includes your brain and your spinal cord. And there's the peripheral nervous system, which is a network of nerves that go out to your sensory neurons in your fingers, toes, nose, anywhere you're able to sense temperature or touch. And the motor neurons that make everything work. You can do this because of your motor neurons. Here's some big ideas you need to know about the nervous system. The ones in red are especially important. The nervous system controls all activities of the body by responding to internal and external information. The nervous system is a network of nerves and neurons. Neurons are specialized cells of the nervous system. We'll look at a picture of one in just a moment. The central nervous system is your brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system is basically everything else. All those nerves that reach out to your fingers and your toes and your nose and your ears and your elbows, that's your peripheral nervous system. The PNS is organized into several subsystems according to the roles they play in body functions. Here's some lovely pictures of neurons. Here's a modern sort of cartoon, and here's an old-fashioned drawing of a neuron. Both of these are called neurons, N-E-U-R-O-N. There's how to spell neuron. So know where signals start, where they end up, where's sort of the main wire where messages travel, where is the nucleus, and how are messages transmitted. Messages are transmitted through electrical impulses that then trigger neurotransmitters. The main cell body is here. The axon is kind of the main wire, and it travels to the dendrites here. The structure-function relationship between neurons, a neuron is going to look mostly like this because this is the best design for picking up signals, picking up input from a lot of different places. So there's a structure-function relationship in the way neurons are, they're structured, they've evolved in a particular way because their function is to collect messages from lots of other neurons. This part of the neuron, the dendrites, collect incoming information from other neurons, this end of other neurons that plug in here. So the central nervous system, right here, which of course has lots of neurons in it, your brain is full of neurons, is connected to the spinal cord, and this is the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. It tells everybody else, all the other neurons, what to do. The peripheral nervous system is all the blue stuff. It's all the nerves that go to the rest of the body that help you sense touch and pain and temperature and lots of other interesting stuff. So peripheral nervous system, everything else. CNS, central nervous system, tells everybody what to do. PNS discovers what's going on out there in the world and tells your brain and spinal cord. There's two subsystems. Remember we talked about the sensory and the motor neurons. Sensory figures out what's going on. Motor neurons direct your muscles what to do. And remember we talked about that a little bit earlier when we looked at the big picture. If you start to shiver uncontrollably, what part of the motor division is working? Well, the autonomic nervous system is the automatic nervous system. It's things you do automatically, like shiver when you're cold, or your heartbeat, or your lungs working. That's all automatic. Somatic would be the funky dance move region because it lets you control what you're doing. Anytime you type or have a glass of water, you're using your somatic nervous system. You're controlling what's going on. So, practice for essay question 3. How does the nervous system work when you're brushing your teeth? Well, you'd use your central nervous system to control what's going on. You'd use your sensory nervous system to sense where your toothbrush is. You'd use your motor neurons to direct the toothbrush. It all talked to the central nervous system. So you can think a little bit more of how that would all work. Remember, both of these systems, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, is going to be involved in both motor neurons, and sensory neurons are going to be involved in pretty much you doing anything. Thanks for watching. Now go take the test. And of course, use your central nervous system. The biggest part of which is your brain, not the internet. Thanks a lot, everybody.